Hello and welcome to Peaceful Rebellion. Well, we're here with Gabriella Day, and Gabriella is going to share some stuff that she knows and stuff that she's been doing. But first of all, hello, Gabriella. Thank you very much for joining us.
Lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you to Helen, who introduced you, Gabriella, to me. Yeah. Shout out to Helen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's amazing how these sort of different people will pop up in your life when you need them to make the connections that you need. I think we sometimes underestimate how significant these chance happenings can be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Gabriella, let's give us an overview of, we're going to get into deeper stuff, but who you are and what you are.
Hmm. Well, so I am a GP. So I've been a GP for over 20 years now. Um, so Obviously, I came from a slightly different background in that, so my dad was a GP, and his parents were both vets. And the whole family's always had kind of, I would say, quite a questioning attitude, quite an open-minded attitude. You know, the attitude will be always to ask questions, why is this happening? Can we look into it a bit further? My grandma, so we had a German part of the family, and my grandma was over there and was bitten by a horsefly and had a big red angry swelling that came up on her arm. And Uncle Bernhardt gave her homeopathic belladonna, which just melted away all the inflammation. So obviously, when something significant to you happens like that, you can't help but take that on board. So she came back and gradually introduced some homeopathy into her veterinary practice. And then Chris Day, my uncle, was also a vet, and he ended up doing he used acupuncture, chiropractic, homeopathy
Mm.
with animals with great results. My dad was a GP, and he actually did some training in homeopathy, but he found it very difficult to reconcile the fact because he felt that the homeopathy way of doing things didn't fit with the conventional way of doing things. So it seemed that the homeopathy side of things was telling him that what he was doing in conventional practice was wrong. So he found that a bit of a struggle. But again, I don't think it's a coincidence that I've got this kind of homeopathic part to my family, and then I've got, my dad having done the sort of mainstream general practice. One of the things that has struck me during COVID time is that there's been a massive divide. People have been driven to one end of medics are evil, and the other end, the people who think that medics are saving the world, and you've got this great big divide. Now, we're not going to solve any of the problems that we're facing today with increasing separation, division, hatred, and anger. So part of what I see myself as doing is trying to unite these two aspects of the alternative, the different ways of doing things with the best bits of what we've already got. And let's face it, the roots of medicine, when we look back, is individuals caring about their patients, holding them in their times of difficulty and distress. And it doesn't matter what has been going on, there have been fantastic health professionals supporting people through distress. And I think that's fundamental to everything. If we can't do what we do with love, then we shouldn't be doing it. So if we're actually promoting fear, hatred, we're going in the wrong direction
Sure.
because that's not playing our game. That's playing someone else's game. And what we need to be doing is creating a better a better system, which is perfectly possible. So we need to
Absolutely.
get on with doing that and getting that built.
Absolutely. Yeah, that and there's so many things you said that resonate with me. Just what one of the my background is I've done a lot of work in therapy and hypnotherapy and things like that. Okay, and other kinds of therapies. And what one thing that I've noticed is that there's a tremendous power. Doctors have tremendous power, and I think that many doctors don't understand the power that they have, which is the power of the placebo effect and the positive suggestion power, because people, even now, even with this divide, which is very obvious, 50% of the population will take any word that you say to them as very, very important, and the unconscious mind's there. And so I often have this fantasy of being able to help doctors to understand how to use language to help the patients to heal just through speaking to them as well, not just giving them tablets. And I think what I've seen happen is that when I was a kiddie, if we were ill, the doctor would come to our house and he would sit and he would put his hands on us and he would talk to us and he would say, "Don't worry about it. This will be gone. It'll be gone before you know it, blah, blah, blah." All of that is kind of disappeared now, and the doctor's behind the desk and the clacking on keyboards, and it's changed this whole dynamic with people, this interaction that we used to have.
So I don't think it's gone, but I think it's definitely, it's under threat.
Mm.
And that's what, so the trouble is with the medical system is it's the people, the egotistical people who believe they know everything that shout loudest, that make it sound like the medical system is not hearing anything. But there are, I'm talking to other professionals constantly who understand this stuff. And I think that one of the keys is the more we talk and the more we give people a voice to stand up for this. I've also written something called Heart-Based Medicine, which is very much about this. We want these quiet, caring, compassionate medical professionals to start firmly standing up more in their truth and saying, "No, I don't like the way you're doing it. And there's a different way of doing it. It's a better way. And it's the only way to solve the crisis that we're in at the moment with the massive amounts of unmet need is to bring that understanding of the feminine aspect, the intuitive feeling, caring aspect of medical care back into it. We don't want it to be dominated by algorithms, rules, and everything. They can all be helpful. But they shouldn't be dictating how we do it. They should be informing how we practice. And again, this is all there in medicine. This is how we're taught. We're taught not to just implement evidence-based medicine. We're taught that it should be evidence-informed. So we should be adapting it for each individual. And
Yeah.
that is perfectly possible. I mean, the power of the word is massive. So yes, iatrogenic illness caused by doctors is a massive problem, and the doctors aren't aware of it. So, this is one of the things. There's a section in my book, In Defense of the Realm, what's in a word, and we know how the word can be used to hypnotize. We know how the word can be used to disempower people. We know that it can make people, it can take away people's hope. It can make people believe they're powerless, but it can also help them realize the fact they're actually powerful, they're actually creators, and that if we, we're in a very bad place if we think the situation is hopeless. It's not hopeless. We talk ourselves into believing it's hopeless. But the more we can sort of trust that, some of the things I firmly believe is that the universe will not give you more to deal with than you're capable of dealing with.
Uh-huh.
It won't give you a task to do and then not give you the tools that you need to complete that task. It won't tell you you've got to do all of this stuff and then not give you enough time to do it. So if you can keep the faith, this is perfectly possible. We can do this.
Sure.
Then all we have to do is work out how. And a lot of what my book is talking about is the fact that we have been taught that it's noble to suffer, and that people know better than we do. And that if we do as we're told, then we'll be okay. And the truth is actually that, the realm that I talk about in my book is the body, mind, and soul. And what we need to understand is that first and foremost, we're here to ensure that we have sovereignty over our body, mind, and soul. That means that thoughts that are put in our head that are disempowering, thoughts in our head that tell us we can't do stuff, or we have to do this, or we should be doing it that way, or anything like that, those thoughts, we need to recognize them, get rid of them, and realize that, no, this is my realm. It was given to me for a purpose. If I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve, and what is it my purpose to achieve, I need to take full control of my realm. And when we're talking about the medical world, that means, no, the medical world don't tell you what to do with your body. the medical world does not have the right to say what's good for you, what you should be doing. That's your personal autonomy. And it's unfortunately, nobody's going to come to you and say, oh, we're going to stop telling you what to do now. Now it's your turn. You can do your thing. We have to say, enough is enough. This is my realm. This is what I'm going to do with it. I want to work with you. If you don't want to work with me, that's fine. I'm not going to encroach on your stuff, but this is my realm. And I reign. I rule over this realm of mine. And when we all do that, because of the way the universe is set up, we can eventually, over time, all live alongside each other happily.
Absolutely, Gabriella. Yeah, I like your vision, and I've always had the sense that for what I see and what I see with everything, every structure that we have, we know that there are so many structures that are just they're archaic. They're a dinosaur, and they're not going to work. For something new to grow, they've got to crumble into it to some degree, and that's I've got this sense that talking to yourself, and there's a lady during the pandemic who's also a doctor, but who does the same as you. She combines many disciplines into her work, and she helped me, and I remember talking to her thinking, this is the way forward. It's not that we say Doctor Man, Doctor Woman bad. It's not about that. It's about taking the best that the medical world can offer, and then taking all of the extra stuff that we've got, that and fusing it together. I get the sense that that's where it's inevitable that we've got to move that way. It's inevitable.
So there's in the Bible it says the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And the way I would adapt that is to say systems were made for man, not man for the system.
Yeah.
When the system is preventing man from doing what he needs to do and is restricting him, then it's time for either to flex, adapt, alter the system in one way, in whatever way. So instead of having a system that controls and restricts, it's more like a trellis that enables everybody to grow and flourish on it. So I was talking to somebody this morning. What we need to be doing is, if somebody has an illness, we shouldn't be saying this is the pathway for this illness. This is how we go. You must do this. If you do this, this, and this, you will be okay. And if you don't, then you've got no right to any treatment whatsoever. What we should be saying is, this individual in front of me, what do they need in order to grow, to progress, to become well? It may be that something on this path is going to work for them, but it may be that we take a bit from that path and a bit from that path. So it becomes about the individual, not
Yeah.
about the process.
And finding out what that person's beliefs are, because that has such an impact in healing, isn't it? If somebody is particularly drawn to something, then it makes no sense to say, no, that won't work for you. It's this, you know. People's beliefs. I know in the placebo trial information that I've seen, it's a very high percentage of people respond to placebo. Very, very high.
It's not placebo, is it? That's the thing. There's something going on. So just saying it's
Absolutely.
placebo is a cop out, because what we should be saying is, okay, what's involved in this
Sure.
placebo? I've just recently read a book by it's called Radical Remission, and I think it's by Kelly Turner, but I might have got that wrong. But basically, what she did was she was working with cancer patients, and she was intrigued by the patients who got better when everybody said that they wouldn't. Either that they would only get better if they had this particular treatment and they decided they didn't want it, or somebody said it was impossible for them to get better, it wasn't going to happen, and then they did. And she said, what's going on with these people? And a lot of the doctors would say, oh, it's just an anomaly.
Uh,
It's like, well, hang on. Okay, maybe it is an anomaly, but what's going on? What's different? Because so she interviewed loads of people who had, achieved a surprisingly good outcome, and looked to see what the key factors were in their progress. There was taking supplements, radically changing your diet. There was increasing positive thoughts, dealing and resolving negative thoughts. But one of the key ones was intuition. So that means that they were going with stuff that felt right for them. Now, no doctor can tell you that bit, can they? No doctor can tell you what is right for you and what isn't. They can give you information with their expertise about their experience. That we tend to find that this particular treatment, because there are when you're treating people with cancer, there are some chemotherapies that have a high success rate and give people years, 30, 40 years. If you're looking at like Hodgkin's lymphoma or something like that. And then you've got other situations where people are being given toxic chemotherapy, where it's unlikely to give them any significantly increased life expectancy. It could give them horrendous quality of life, and it might actually shorten their life. And she quotes a study asking oncologists about whether or not they would take it. And, the majority of oncologists said that they wouldn't have it themselves.
Nor for the family. I think I remember reading.
Yeah, so, that's not, we should be, a lot of key to healing is about being honest. It's integrity. It's honest. One thing that's really damaging is for people to say, I forgive someone when they don't.
Yeah.
And pretend that they do, convince themselves they haven't. Where does that resentment and anger go? It stays in the body, it causes harm. So, you get mutiny in the body, essentially. My body's not looking out for me and my interests, so I'm going to do my own thing. I'm not going to do what this puppet king is telling me to do. I'm just going to go off and do my own thing. Whereas if you can actually listen to the body and respond to its needs, then you can get better. But you can't respond to the needs if you're not honest about them. So if you're angry, if you're in a work situation and you're being constantly abused, and you say, oh, it's fine, it's okay, it's fine. If you're an enlightened master, it might be fine because you can rise above it all and it's fine. But for most of us, that's not the case. So we need to be honest and say, I am resenting this situation. It's not okay for me, and recognize that you then have a choice whether you stay in that situation or whether you want to shift something, move out of that situation to enable you to get rid of that, because ultimately hatred is damaging. So we don't want to be in a position of hatred. We want to be able to resolve that. And that may need significant changes. And that's one of the things I talk about in my book, is that it's very easy to be in the comfortable place and carry on. But if it's not where you're supposed to be, it's going to become more and more uncomfortable over time. And so you may have to make some disruptive changes to resolve it. But if you don't, it's just going to get harder.
Sure. I agree. I've had the pleasure of working with people who have been diagnosed with cancer, and they knew that they needed to sort certain emotional elements to the life, and I was able to work with them whilst they were having their treatments and doing whatever, changing the diets and stuff. I was able to work with them on an emotional basis to cleanse, to clean the floor. Yeah.
It's the realm, and you're cleaning out your realm, and you're getting rid of all the debris, all the detritus, all the false beliefs, all the things that we've been taught that not true. Like, I have to suffer, it's noble to suffer, that I have to do as I'm told, that this is the way things are done. And of course your intuition is screaming at you that this is not the way, but it's been quietened from a very early age to say, well, the adults know better. So of course the adults have been indoctrinated into this system, and they believe in the system, they think it's the way to do it, so they impress on the child it's the way to do it. What happens then is that the child has got this strong sense of how things should be, and they may be seeing the situation clearly and saying, why are we not doing anything about that situation? It's wrong. And the parent says, oh, no, we don't do that, we do it this way. And then you've got a child with this split inside that says, but this feels wrong to do it that way. But the adult says that I have to do it this way, so there must be something wrong with me. Once you've taught your child, your child accepts that it's wrong in some way, you've got the split in the psyche then, where you've got, it's just setting up problems for the future.
And teaching them to go against their own intuition, which is disaster.
And you've taught your child that their intuition is unreliable.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that translate as you grow up, once you've learned that your intuition is unreliable? When somebody does think something to you that you don't feel is okay, but you've been taught not to rely on your intuition, so you let them do that to you. And that can be all sorts of abuse that can be involved in that. But what you've been taught is that you don't have the right to stand up and say, this feels wrong, I'm not going along with this.
And boy, are we in that situation. You know, people have been taught that they have to ignore the intuition and listen to people in positions of power, like parents. We're taught from a very early age, listen to your parents and then listen to your teachers and then listen to your politicians and listen to your priests. And, you know, it's kind of like, don't think, just listen.
Yeah. And yet the enlightened masters, so I mean, basically, when Jesus came along and he taught, nothing was written down initially. So there were lots of people from different backgrounds, so Stoic background, Jewish background, all sorts of other backgrounds, who were hearing his teachings and interpreting it in their own way and eventually over time, some of it was written down. And then the Catholic Church decided what went in the Bible.
Sure.
And of course, so what went in the Bible was do as you're told and you'll be okay. So, you know, that's what you learn. Do as I'm told and I'll be okay. And if I don't do as I'm told, then I will be damned, purgatory. Of course, that's not true. When you look at this sort of some of the other accounts that didn't make it into the Bible, the idea was that the guru would impart their knowledge to you until you reached a level with them, and you continue to ask your own questions. And you know, it's not that Jesus was the Son of God, and we can only be saved because of him. What he was trying to tell us was that we're all children of God, so we can all save ourselves ultimately if we use our God-given faculties to move us in that direction, which is not a case of just doing as we're told. And so a lot of the Eastern philosophies. One of the things I talk about in my book is that if you believe that we've got one life and then we're damned or saved, it's all or nothing. You know, the stakes are really high, aren't they? So, you know, you better blooming do as you're told, otherwise you'll be damned. If you believe in reincarnation, where, you know, every life if you haven't learned something, you're just going to have to come back and learn it again. It's a very different story. And then essentially every lesson that comes up is something we have to learn from. And I think a big lesson that we need to learn at the moment is that just doing as you're told is not the way out of a sticky situation.
Exactly. Yeah. It's in it. At least when you believe that you're here to learn lessons, it makes you empowered, but it's a tremendous reframe, even when bad stuff's happening, that you can reframe that and say, well, what am I going to learn from this? You know, it's empowering for you.
Absolutely. So yeah, everything happens for a reason, and why is this happening now, and what can I get out of it? So there was a colleague, I've had some great conversations with colleagues recently, and very different degrees of awareness of what's happening, but there's a concept of salutogenesis. So we talk about pathogenesis, which is where things are going wrong, pathology in the body, and it's the idea is that something's going wrong and the doctor needs to fix it. With salutogenesis, I think the origin of the world is that you welcome whatever it is and then you use it for your own personal growth in some way. So it came from a study of women who'd been in adverse experiences such as the Holocaust. So most of the women came out traumatized, but there was a group of women who came out and they weren't traumatized. And when they looked at it, these women saw some sense of meaning, some sense of something that they could do through this process, which actually meant that when they came out of the tunnel at the other end, they'd grown spiritually, you know, emotionally, whatever. They had grown. And Viktor Frankl talks about this in Man's Search for Meaning. I can't remember the name. But he was looking at, again, from the men's perspective, but the sense of meaning. And one of the key things that Viktor Frankl says, which I think is a really, really important message, vital message, there were decent people. In every group of society, there are decent people and indecent people. So he saw that in the concentration camp, amongst the prisoners, there were decent people and indecent people. Amongst the guards, there were decent people and indecent people. And we need to start seeing that you can't just lump a group of people together. You can't say all health professionals are like this. You can't say that all awake people are like this. It's a total misconception. You've got people doing amazing, trying their absolute best in the medical system in horrendously adverse circumstances at the moment, absolutely doing their best, and they're, and trying to help, and with a heart of love, trying to do what they're doing. And to abuse them because they haven't maybe realized what's going on is totally unhelpful. What do? You end up putting people's backs up, don't you? And the more you put people's backs up, the more anger, resentment there is, the more we're
Just antagonism, that's all. It creates fights.
antagonism.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what we need to be doing is, one of the chapters in my book is called Tackling the Hornberg. So I don't know, I use Lord of the Rings references a
Okay.
lot because it's a guidebook for life, really. But in the Hornberg, the Battle of the Hornberg, is it not said that the Hornberg has never been defeated when men have defended it? And so it's got walls of sheer stone, and so that sheer stone, it's impregnable. You can't get through it. And that's kind of what I would say, is that the people who have not woken up to things, it's like that their defenses are like that sheer wall. And so you can throw yourselves against the sheer wall, and all you're going to do is get hurt. It's not actually helpful. But the way the orcs found their way in was through the culvert at the bottom where the stream went through. And so they found the little gap, and that was how they got in. And I think if we maintain the faith that this is all going to be okay in the end, all we need to be looking for is, seeking out good people, talking to them, making connections. Connection is vital, because if we can make connections with people, those connections are so powerful. They can overcome all sorts of things. So if you see a little chink in the armor, a little incongruity that they've noticed, and you just deal with that incongruity, and you just gently, not all in one go. We don't need to be shocking anybody. Some of us have been horrendously shocked by what we've heard, and it's been, quite traumatic. And I think there's a tendency to feel like, because we've gone through that, maybe other people should too. I don't think they need to. We can wait them. What is the purpose here? The purpose is not to shock people. The purpose is to build a better world, ultimately. So that's what we need to concentrate on, is helping every individual, ultimately, in every walk of life, whether it's in health or education or whatever walk of life you're in. It's all about individuals, and there's power struggles within there. And so again, coming back to In Defense of the Realm, every individual who takes control, takes their power back, disrupts that power dynamic. And as they do that, and they say, I don't think this is how we should do things. I'm going to change these. I'm not going to do what they've said. I don't think it's the right way. Every individual who starts thinking like that is helping to shift the situation.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Lovely. And again, you make so many points. I think, oh, I would like to talk about that. And I've got loads of points everywhere. Well, one of the things that you talked about was something I'm very aware of, that in society they are working on creating a victim mentality, which is poor me. Look what's happening to me. And we were talking about healing. Am I the victim in this, or am I going to be the victor? And I think our role, and especially this new wave of medicine that's going to come, is to help people to become victors in this, taking responsibility, taking control, and really taking responsibility for the fact that this is how they are, and now what you're going to do about it, and I can help to guide you. So whereas the victim, and there are lots of victims walking around now, and they've just been made that way because of, oh, poor you, you can't do anything about it, it's not your fault. And I think we've got to shift people away from that, because that's not helpful at all.
Well, if you look at it on the basis of reincarnation, and every lesson that you don't learn in this lifetime is going to come back. I mean, how many lifetimes do you want to stay in victimhood?
Exactly.
It's not nice. So when are you going to do something about it? Because nobody's going to come along. I mean, it's the Rapunzel thing, isn't it? Rapunzel, you're going to have to let down your hair and make the ladder yourself and get out yourself. Stop waiting for the prince to arrive. And the other
Yeah.
analogy is, in Harry Potter, when Sirius, when the Dementors come and they're attacking Sirius, and Harry Potter sees the Patronus, and he thinks, oh, somebody came and saved and it was all okay. And then when they go back, he suddenly realizes that it wasn't someone else, it's him. That's how we have to be. We're not waiting. If we sit around waiting for somebody to rescue us,
Yeah.
we're not going to get anywhere. If we realize we have to cast our own Patronus, that's when we can start shifting things,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is, as you say, it's realizing that we are powerful, which you can paint with words, like with the hypnotherapy.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
just, the more we can help people realize their own power, but their own power has to be wielded in their own unique and individual way, using their intuition to work out what that is, which means unbrainwashing yourself. And unbrainwashing yourself is not just a matter of, the thousands of years of unbrainwashing. It's also avoiding falling into any trap where anybody else appears to be giving you all the answers. There are people trying to brainwash you everywhere you look. Jake Ducey says, brainwash yourself before the world brainwashes you, before anybody else does it. And that's what, it's like, okay, what do we want the world to look like? Okay, this is how I want the world to look. How am I going to start creating that? What is my individual part in that I'm here to play? That's the role I've been given to play. And it's time to get on stage now. Stop hanging about in the wings, faffing around. Get on and do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a journey within, really, isn't it? The journey within to find out who you are and why are you here? What are you here to give to this world?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I remember years ago thinking, who am I? And it was a case of, you've got this external shell that has been built up that, other people have told you who you are, and you believe that. Somebody tells you something. When you believe it, you incorporate it into your existence, your world. And I remember feeling like I was just kind of a shell. When you start realizing that actually, it's this fundamental thing that you're not a miserable sinner, you're a child of God, and actually you are powerful, and you are a divine child. When you realize that, then you have the faith that, okay, there's nothing actually wrong with me underneath. There might be lots of mud slapped on top of me that is messing with my, what I want to do, but all I need to do is wash that mud off, and the core of me is perfect,
Yeah.
because it's the image of God. So it's the core of you is perfect. Once you have that realization, now that doesn't mean that we do everything perfectly. It doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that we don't have to look at stuff, deal with stuff, undo miscomprehensions that we've accumulated over years and years. There's lots and lots of housekeeping to do. But if we fundamentally know that at the core, there's this, it's kind of like I always wanted to live in one of those Roman villas with the atrium and the impluvium in the middle with the water there. At the core is this diamond just waiting to be revealed. We just need to get rid of all the rubbish on the top and stop believing all the rubbish that people have taught us that is not true.
Exactly. Exactly. And that job is it's a big job because the way everything's set up, it's designed to cover you with all of that stuff so you don't know who you are. Because if everybody knew who they were, very difficult to manage. We would be very difficult to manage, wouldn't we? So it's far better that everybody just thinks that they're this. So it's a job. I think it's the next, I don't know what you feel in terms of timing, but I think the next few decades are going to be incredible to watch the shift, because it's almost like we're on a precipice of a shift. Obviously, it's going to take its time. It's going to need time and need lots of investment of energy. But I can see us heading in this beautiful direction, which is very different to where we've been.
It absolutely is, but I think it's going to take time,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of hard work to do. There's a lot of shoveling of earth to do. And we have to get on and do the work, and it's there's a lot of change. There's a lot to undo. There's a lot of rubbish to undo.
Yeah.
And also, so there's also that supporting. I mean, I kind of have this image of, when people are doing ballroom dancing and they hold each other and support each other. That's kind of how it needs to be, because we're all going to go through difficult phases where we kind of lose our you lose your vision, maybe you lose sight of where you're going, you doubt yourself, doubt whom you will, but never yourself. I think that was Christian Nestel Bove. I don't know if I got that right.
Mm.
But we all have periods that are challenging, and people waking up are going to face challenges.
Sure.
And so instead of saying, "Oh, you stupid idiot, you didn't realize what was going on," or I mean, this whole business about posts that said, "I never did this and I never did that, and I wasn't brainwashed. I saw through all of this from the beginning," I find really unhelpful, because that is not helping people who are gradually realizing. And who knows why different people realize what's going on at different times. We don't know why that is. It's there's some meaning in it that we don't understand. So we shouldn't be I mean, for heaven's sake, there but for the grace of God do I, at least we realized so we should be grateful that we realized, and be there supportive, remembering how it was for us. I mean, people have known about stuff for many years, haven't they? And then there's other people who
Sure.
um but we have to support other people as they're starting to question what's going on. We need to be there to catch them. As
We need them. We need them in our gang. We don't
we
want
need them in a
to,
gang, yeah. We want to welcome them in. Come on in, the water's lovely.
Sure. And, the thing is, even the people who are awake and who were awake during the, 2020, well, whoopee-doo. I remember 20 years ago, I was listening to David Icke thinking, this man is off his rocker. And I was equally as skeptic and laughing at that kind of thing. And then I think, wow, if somebody had asked me, I would have said, he's an idiot. Get him off. Cancel him. You know? And so we've all been at some point, we've all been in that sleeping place, and nobody's any better than anybody else. Just a
Yeah.
matter of time. And I think many times it's luck. And I also think it's to do with what you wrote in your plan before you came here, what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and it's Maya, isn't it? I mean, the delusion of Maya. If we when you look at it from that Eastern philosophy, which is the whole of creation, basically there is source. Source is unity. Source is love. If you want to create anything else, you have to create polarity. And if you're going to create polarity, you have to introduce this thing called Maya, which I was just writing something about it the other day. It's like you've got a pristine sheet, and then you crumple it all up. So you've got all the crumpled creases and everything. So you've got Maya, which has totally distorted the image of the truth initially. Maya is it's an absolute requirement. This creation could not exist without it. But Maya has to convince us that that all of that dark stuff, that it's bad. In Lord of the Rings, Eru the One, he created a music, and Melkor, he tried to create a dissonant music. And then they came down and they saw what they'd created on the earth. And there was the Ulmo who had created the water, and Manwë the earth, and different things. And then Melkor came down and messed it up. So the beautiful water, he would freeze it, or he would turn it into a geyser. He would heat it. And Ulmo got upset about that, because he's like, he's messing up what I've made. And then Eru said, look what he's done to your water. He's made this beautiful glacier, this flowing glacier. He's made this beautiful geyser. Whatever happens with it, it's all used ultimately for good.
Mm.
The people who are doing the dark stuff, they don't realize that ultimately everything they're doing is going to take us back to that place of love and unity. So that's where we've got the advantage, is that it's okay. We know that good wins in the end. We know that that's what happens. So we can have that faith, which they can't have, because they've always got the terror that it's going to be destroyed, because it will be, because ultimately, it all comes back to one. So
Absolutely.
we know we can win.
Absolutely. I agree with you entirely. Yeah. Good will out, and light always overcomes darkness. It's just a scientific thing. You go into a dark room, put the light on, and the dark has to go. And
Yeah,
that's it. And that's where we are. We're in this period of revelation and this period of the light getting brighter, and
yeah.
a beautiful time.
And is it hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that.
Hmm.
Luther
Yeah.
King Jr. And
Beautiful.
I think that's not an easy thing, is it?
No.
to maintain that with all the frustrations of what's going on. And that's why I say we have to support each other when we have our moments of doubt, because it can be really hard because we are facing lots of obstacles and it's tough. It is really tough. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's not worth it.
Oh, sure. Well, I think for things to really, for us to relish what we've done, we've got to go through the hero's journey. It's got to be done. We've got to fight the monster. Otherwise, you're not a hero.
Yeah, yeah. I was watching Lego Ninjago movie at the weekend with my children,
All right.
and they have to face the monsters. They have to go, I think it says you can go this way, the easy meandering route, or you can go this way and face the monsters. But yeah, it happens in every movie, doesn't it? And obviously we know that movies are
Yeah,
telling us something, and what it's telling us is we need to fight the dragons.
absolutely. Everything in life is based on the hero's journey. Life itself is the hero's journey. So,
It
yeah.
is.
Well, listen, Gabriella, this has been fascinating. Now, just to finish, tell us a little bit about your book, just so where people can find it. Is it out yet or not?
No, it's not yet out. I'm
Oh,
on the final few hurdles of getting the cover finalized and the beautiful. So there's beautiful pictures in it by Kira Montgomery, which are just lovely. So it will be available through Waterstones, Amazon. So it will be
yeah.
available through all the big retailers. It's called In Defense of the Realm,
Okay.
um, and it's reclaiming your sovereignty. And as I say, it's not about victimhood. It's about, that readjustment that we need to
Brilliant.
take power back. Yeah.
Brilliant. And are people able to pre-order? I know with Amazon, sometimes you can organize pre-order. I don't know if you've seen that option.
No, I haven't done anything about that yet, but I do have a website. So I've got two websites, one for my homeopathy and one for my writing. The writing one is gabrielladay.com, and it's got some of those lovely pictures on there, and a little bit of information on there as well.
Okay.
Um, I'm also on LinkedIn as Gabriella Featherston. So there's extracts from it there, lots of my writing on there. And as I say, one of my philosophies with homeopathy is that, we use remedies to help bring about shifts, but we also need to bring about changes in understanding, because if we don't do that bit, then the shifts just relapse again. So a lot of what I do in my homeopathy is helping people to see situations differently. We get stuck in situations, don't we? And we don't know how to move forward. And sometimes you just need somebody else from an external perspective, to look at things and help you just see things differently, because there's always a way forward. There's always a way out. Sometimes we're looking for the door and we need to be looking for, the trap door, the hole in the ceiling or something, because there's
Mhm.
always a way.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
sometimes need somebody else to help you see it.
Absolutely. I agree with you entirely. I agree with everything that you said today. Wonderful. It's been really lovely talking to you, Gabriella. You're a very positive person, positive spirit, and we need people like you in this world. So thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. And we need the communication is so key, isn't it? So being able to talk to you and your listeners, so we can work together.
Absolutely. So I'll put all of the links in the video description of your LinkedIn and etc. so people can find you. And I wish you every success in the release of your In Defense of the Realm book. And
Thank you.
perhaps in the future we can talk again. Yeah, once more things have happened, because I think lots of things are going to be happening.
They will, and it's all evolving, isn't it? We're evolving, the situation's evolving. There's always new stuff coming up for us as individuals
Yeah,
and the whole planet. So
absolutely. Okay,
lovely.
Gabriele, thank you very much, and I'll see you again.
Thank you.